Y'all can come over here.
We can drive you home. That way you can stay out with us later, until you feel better.
Why are you helping me out? 'Cause I look like some movie star?
Oh, Ruthie knows.
Why don't you tell her, Ruthie?
'Cause we're man-haters.
It's weird we came to the fairgrounds. This is where Johnny and I met.
My name's Mike McCarthy. I'm a filmmaker from Memphis, Tennessee. I'm from Tupelo. I was conceived in East Tupelo. I made a film in 1995 called Teenage Tupelo, where I stated that Elvis was my father. We went to all the places that Elvis Presley had walked as a boy, and it was an amazing straight line, a linear approach from Jesse's grave to birthplace to hardware store, and in between all that was the fairgrounds, where Elvis would perform when he was a boy and lose at a singing contest, but come back at 21 years of age and play the homecoming show as sort of this burgeoning king of rock and roll. And I consider that event to be the greatest rock and roll event of all time. I summed up the two hands reaching to each other, Elvis's hand and the teenage girl's hand, as being my father and my mother. And this was sort of what Teenage Tupelo was about, the quest for my father.
I had heard about Mike McCarthy back in 1996 when he was doing his Teenage Tupelo film. My impression of him, I knew that a friend of mine was a go-go dancer in the film, Dallas Browning, and I had this impression of Mike being kind of a hipster filmmaker guy. And I knew him because of the Tupelo Underground Film Festival, which Atlanta Tennell was there, and all these other really burlesque-looking women, and I'm there with my son, who at the time I guess was 13 or 14. There's a lot of tongue-in-cheek going on, and you don't really know what all the levels are to this film. I mean, there's you know, is this revenge? Why is this film being made, and what does it say? But no matter what it said, I like the feel of it, and it resonated so perfectly with the Tupelo that should be there. You know, there should be a creative, artsy community. It shouldn't just be all board meetings and church on Sunday and all this stuff. It was that grit, and I saw it for the first time, and I was like, there it is, and I immediately wanted to work with Mike on something in the future.
So Sean called me in 2011, and he wanted some ideas kicking around for maybe a short film that would become Tupelo, that starred Amy LaVere and Corey Parker.
So, can you recommend a good cab company?
You don't have to take a cab, Norton. I can give you a lift into Tupelo.
Really? You do that for a stranger?
Sure. We're very friendly here in the South, Norton. Well, I was always crazy about rock and roll music history, and Mike McCarthy's known me for some time, and he asked if I wanted to be a part of this film project called Tupelo, and of course I wanted to be a part of it.
As marketing director for the Tupelo Convention and Visitors Bureau, you know, we have to look at how to market Tupelo, and it being the birthplace of Elvis is a big part of what we do. You know, the film was kind of the first step in that direction.
Basically, it was two romantic characters that go through the motions of walking through Elvis's boyhood and falling in love by the end, sort of with a ghost.
In the film, Mike said that I would be something of a ghost tour guide, and I would be giving this guy that had no idea that he was actually in Elvis Presley's birthplace something of a tour of the town and Elvis's relevance to Tupelo. You're not from around here, are you?
You got me on that. I'm going to Tupelo. I buy and sell furniture.
Well, you should see some sights while you're here. I am a natural tour guide. I love telling people about the history of rock and roll music, so it was a perfect fit. Hey, you know what? You know that photograph? Norton, the one where the girls were reaching up to touch Elvis's fingertips? You do know it?
Yeah.
I think that that was one of the most profound memories in rock and roll music. And that happened right here in Tupelo, right on the fairgrounds. Imagine, imagine being there.
At the end of Tupelo, there's a scene where Amy asks Corey's character to reach up to an idea, really, and that idea is as strong as the American middle class used to be, as strong as rock and roll used to be. That idea, in its original form, I wanted there to be a statue there, them reaching up to an Elvis statue, but of course there was no statue in Tupelo.
The two characters in the film, Norton and V, kind of go on a tour of Elvis sites in Tupelo, and one of the spots is the old fairgrounds in Tupelo, where in 1956 Elvis came for a homecoming show, and that picture Roger Marshutz took of Elvis reaching down into the crowd, there was no statue there. And I think we were eating at China Capitol, and Mike said there should be a marker, there should be a statue.
When we were discussing the script, he said, so this part where you're reaching up, touching Elvis's fingers, I wish to God there was a statue of Elvis there, tall statue, so that you could actually reach up and touch his fingertips. But there's not, so we're just going to have you reach up as if you're imagining you're touching his fingertips. And when we went to make the film, it was so obvious that there should be a statue there, and Mike was totally right.
I went down to Tupelo that day to have an initial conversation with Sean about what Tupelo, this idea of Tupelo, this 15-minute film would be. But the whole time, I was like, man, if they could put a statue there of Elvis in that Roger Marshutz pose, that would be so cool, because frankly, I'd always been obsessed with that photograph.
And the fact that that photo was shot there, not in Kansas City, not in Indianapolis, but back where it all started in Tupelo, Mississippi, I just think it was almost like a bigger thing was at work there.
And to play there at 21, sort of as the king of entertainment, the king of pop culture, 1956 is the greatest year that Elvis would ever have, and his life is half over. He lives to be 42. He's 21 at the Fairgrounds show. It's a pretty startling accomplishment. And Elvis's life sums up so much of American pop culture and the American middle class. I think the statue represents that. The more you know about Elvis, the more levels you ascertain about Elvis. He becomes more than just a singer. He becomes a symbol for the American way of life in the 20th century.
Yes, sir. Johnny Coleman. As the chief executive of this great Magnolia state of ours, your native state, I'm delighted that I was selected by the people of Lee County to present you with a document here which we hope you will keep in treasure, which I shall now read to you because it will take only half a minute. Okay. The state of Mississippi takes pride in welcoming home on the occasion of the Mississippi-Alabama Fair, America's #1 entertainer in the field of popular music, its own native son, Elvis Presley, is the 26th of September, 1956, J.P. Coleman, Governor. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Thank you very much.
There is a 13-minute film of the concert. He has the guitar on in every song until Hound Dog. He sets the guitar down. They tell me the guitar is covered in leather, which I've never seen before, and I'm not sure that's accurate, but there's some sort of a leather laminate or covering stitched onto the wood. But anyway, he sets that guitar down on Hound Dog, and I feel like that's when this photograph was taken, because he has it in the rest of the songs, even though that is the footage that's missing. Some of that Hound Dog footage is missing, so we can't be for sure. This one pose is not in the film.
Right. So this is the place.
This is it. It's we're building a larger studio down the road. This one's kind of full, but it's not heated or cooled yet. So.
How long have you been here?
Oh gosh, I don't know, 20-something years. We moved back in '82 from Greenwood and bought this place, and soon after we moved back, and the house next door, we lived next door. It's real convenient. It's a good building. It's just I'm trying to do too many processes in one small space. It's only like 25 by 50. Mold making, modeling, storage, you know, some gallery space. Just way too much.
But you can eat at Taylor Grocery anytime you want to.
That's nice.
You eat there for free?
No. No. Check with them to make sure they weren't being bothered, and it never happened. Hey, come on in.
Move.
All right.
Jimbo!
What's up, fellas?
Right.
Hey, Bill.
Did you
Happy New Year.
do us any good?
Yes, sir, I did. I happen to live here in the Taylor community where Bill's shop is, so I pass by the shop all the time, and I'm always interested in his art. As you can see, the sculpts are all in the window, the little models for the bigger pieces he does, and I'm interested in his art. So he's not always here, so whenever the door's open, I come in, and I ran into him at the post office a couple months ago. He said he'd got the Elvis gig.
I heard you were posing for the Elvis statue.
No. That would not be me.
That's what Sean told me.
Okay, well, in a Speedo, maybe. But he had said, he showed me the photograph he was using, and he said he needed the microphone.
That's it.
So that is actually
Let me get the photograph.
the Shure microphone that he was using. This is just your basic cheap old Shure mic from the 50s.
Mm-hmm. Is it actually from the 50s?
Yeah. One of the first visits I came, Bill just had the armature built. He just had the wire armature before he'd even put the foam on. And since the photograph that he's basing the sculpture on doesn't have the feet, he kind of asked me to look at the poster and how would I grab a mic and how would I stand. And I didn't realize he was looking that closely when I did it, but apparently I contributed to the feat of Elvis somehow.
Well, the first person that I thought of when we thought of the statue idea was Bill Beckwith, and he's an Oxford sculptor. I've known him since I was a kid, hanging out at the Hoka in Oxford when we were young. My mom knew him, and she would carry me over there. There was a whole crew of artistic people over there, and Bill was one of the bright spots.
Wow. All right.
Oh, that's incredible. Hey, puppy.
Long time no see.
Good to see you too.
Wow. Come tell me what you think.
Oh, that's great. It's fantastic. I want to see it from the side.
All right, well, come on. Some of this stuff.
That's cool.
The drapery's got a long way to go. I'm out of clay. I'm waiting on some more to get here.
Uh-huh.
A lot of it's just roughed in, just sort of generalized.
Right. The first time I went to see the statue was in February. And I was coming down with the flu, but it was the only time that I could go. And the statue is larger than life. I mean, it's there. It's got the look. It's got everything. The pose is there, and you know, not only the statue but the whole scene. Bill had pictures of Elvis in the background, and the Marchette's photo had been blown up, and there are all these other works in progress around, and it just felt really good. It felt good to be there and seeing this thing come to life.
I've been lucky enough in my career, since I do a lot of portrait heads and a lot of historical bronzes, to do some quite famous Mississippians, Faulkner being one of the most famous, Eudora Welty, Tennessee Williams, Richard Wright, Jim Henson. I can't even think of all of them. I did some work for the Chickasaw Nation. I did the Pio statue, which is going to be in the same park. And while doing that, I did a lot of research on the tribe and worked pretty close with them on that piece. Buffy St. Marie was a Cree Indian from Canada. I listened to a lot of her while I was working on Pio Mingo. Elvis did Till It's Time for You to Go Again, I think. That's a Buffy St. Marie song. Pretty taken with the Chickasaw and that whole history. I do not believe I have any pieces this close together. They're usually one unique piece to a piece of property. This is pretty exciting to have my own sculpture park. Hey! How are you? I'm Bill.
Oh, well, I'm Joel Lewis. I'm Mickey's grandmother.
Okay.
And
Linda Butler. Good to meet you.
Bill Beckwith.
Hi, I'm Nell.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Bobby.
Hey, come on in.
With the Ripley Civic League.
Did y'all get lost?
Yes, we did. A bridge was out. It was terrible. My GPS sent us around and round.
Well,
we finally just stopped and asked somebody, is this is fabulous?
It is.
Next time we'll just get on this old Taylor Road and go.
Oh, we love Elvis. He's the greatest. Beautiful. That is just wonderful. We appreciate so much you letting us come and see this. We're just...
I was scared it'd be covered up, but it worked out. The hand is cut off. He'll be like that picture on the left.
Elvis had come to Ripley and had sang in our old high school gym years and years and years ago, and everybody in Mississippi has a connection with Elvis.
I have a co-worker whose husband had the records that went in the jukeboxes. And they were all excited over it, and I said, well, he's just a singer. Stupid me.
Where were you in the crowd that day?
I was on the bleachers.
Of course, it was packed bodies as tight as you could get in there. And I remember Barbara telling me that she wanted to touch him as they drove in. My name is Dan Westmoreland. My stage name is Outlaw Dan Westmoreland. It's because that name I chose because they treat me like an outlaw here, but I do sing some and do a little writing. Well, that's all right, Mama. That's all right with you. That's all right, Mama, just any way you do. As close as I can remember, this is where the stage would have been, right here at this intersection. I'm trying to come back to where I was during that concert, and Barbara, my sister, was right in front of the stage, and I was off to the side, a 7-year-old kid, but I do remember that. The best that I can remember, this is where the stage, which was a flatbed trailer, a truck trailer, and of course they had their sound equipment set up on the stage. There wasn't a whole lot to it.
I think by leaving Tupelo and coming back after college, I realized that Tupelo was tearing itself down. It was destroying its modern architecture, its drive-in, places where Elvis had been. And I thought in doing that, they were doing themselves a great disservice especially after the fairgrounds were destroyed.
When I heard that the fairgrounds was going to be demolished, including the grandstands, it broke my heart. We had already lost the old Frisco Railroad building, which architecturally was probably the most interesting building in downtown Tupelo. Woke up one morning and it was gone. The Historical Society wasn't even given an opportunity to fight for it.
No, the fairgrounds, they're not there anymore. There's a nice park, but I don't think it matters where you live. There's no city that hasn't torn down some amazing historical place that they should have preserved.
The bleachers were very important to me. My parents had sat on the bleachers and watched Elvis at the '56 homecoming show. My biological mother, who would give me away for adoption to them 7 years later, was in the front row of several of the pictures, or at least one of the pictures that I'd been told about from my brothers as I'd gotten to know them before I ever met my mother.
It's kind of strange how this all came about. As it turns out, Mike is my nephew. My sister is his mother. And I went 58 years not knowing him. But he's about to come back. He and his family is about to become part of our family.
Hopefully, the committee will bring a check today. If they approve the piece, they will bring the second payment, which will need to go to the foundry. If the foundry comes Thursday, I don't know what day they're coming, I'll call them as soon as the committee signs off on the piece.
How you doing? Good to see you. How's everything?
It's been a while. All right.
Yeah, everything's good. Look at that.
In the house.
Yeah. How about that? Man, isn't that great? It's incredible. Neil McCoy, Executive Director of the Tupelo Convention and Visitors Bureau, and what I do is go out and promote Tupelo as a great place to visit for families, conventions, and whatnot. And our biggest calling card is that we're the birthplace of Elvis Presley.
You know, I know Neil is so excited about being part of this process as well. This is a great thing for him, you know, to be in Beckwith Studio, kind of seeing this thing before it happens. You know, it's not like everybody gets to do that, you know, go and be a part of an enduring monument, something that's going to be there forever.
For me, it's about creating a legacy and a moment, a recognition of a spot, of a person that are all significant to Tupelo. That's what we're known for. We're known for the birthplace of Elvis Presley. Not a lot of folks know that he returned in 1956 for that concert, and that iconic picture and this iconic image that we've captured so well, happened in Tupelo. He returned to the homeland. We're going to unveil this thing in August, just before Elvis Week. Seeing it now at this halfway point, we feel like that Bill was certainly the right guy, and he has proven us right.
I've been through the monument process a lot of times, maybe 18, 20 times. I've worked with different committees, different city groups. It's a very difficult process. They have in their minds a certain way that this thing should be. That is a battle.
Always, anyway.
Right.
That means we're going to rent a pumper.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, 500 extra?
Well, you can see, of course, like I say, if we pour, unless we pour it all at one time, we pour footing in it, that'd just be one pump.
It'd be 1,000 if we have to do it twice, is it?
Yeah, well, you don't want to do it twice. We'd make one do it.
All right.
And hopefully, you know, I don't know how they are down here, 500 should be sufficient. Maybe even a little less.
In Oxford, it's $500 to $650 for a pumper. This thing started out a square, and now it's an octagon. It's getting more complicated as it goes. The 42-inch circle that Elvis is standing on is a major casting unto itself. It'll probably have to be done in at least 2 pours. When this piece was originally conceived and bid, that was a 2-foot by 4-foot rectangle. The foundry is going to charge me a lot more money to cast this circle. I may have to go borrow money to have it done. I have no idea. This Elvis monument is that important that I'm trying not to worry about it.
What? I'm sorry, what?
Did you meet your brother?
No, I didn't meet my brother, but tomorrow's Mother's Day. My biological mother is supposed to tell her whole family that I exist.
Oh. Wow.
So half of them already know it, though. That's the other thing.
Have you met her?
Uh-huh, yeah.
Okay.
I've been around her a couple times, but now she's going to accept my whole family. Or I hope that's the idea.
So is your adopted mother still alive?
Uh-uh.
No.
She died in 95. And my dad died about a year ago Wednesday, something like that, Thursday. And so he died on Mother's Day last year. So now this Mother's Day, I get a whole new family. So the statue unveiling will be more than just this tourism spot, and you know, it'll all, the plan is for my biological mother to meet my family for the first time at the statue unveiling. Bring this guy up.
This song, her song, I've got a theory. It's one of the smartest songs I think I've ever heard, the writing. But nothing's hanging heavy in my hand. If you listen to the song, you got to figure out what she's talking about. I got this theory, but I don't know anybody else that knows.
I don't know this song.
It's not on anything else that I know of. It's pretty much only on this one soundtrack. God, it's a good song.
Yeah, actually, Bill's probably one of our best and favorite clients. I mean, he's a great guy to work with. He has these skills that are outside of just laying clay on the sculpture. He's a mechanic, he's a fabricator, carpenter. He's got, all these exterior skills which actually make his work better. I'm Carl Palizza. I'm a mold maker for the Inferno Art Foundry in Union City, Georgia. I've been up here doing this mold on the Elvis sculpture for Bill for, I guess, 3-4 days now. Trying to wrap it up so I can drive it back to Union City to cast it.
I guess we're gonna ride a motorcycle. Panhead like Elvis used to ride.
We both have kind of a gearhead mentality. I mean, there's a whole other side that we both work on our own bikes, we both work on our own vehicles, we both, work on our own houses. So, I mean, there's a real common bond there where he, has a mutual respect towards, the hands-on. It's a big part of our conversation because we just, we don't need to be talking about everything we're doing on the Elvis sculpture or whatever we're working on. It's just a little sideline that we can come around and give each other crap, about what's going on. And that's what's really nice about Bill. He's just a wealth of information and kind of a total amazing part of just his stuff is just really amazing. Tomorrow morning I wake up, we'll take one of the plaster panels off at a time. We'll clean each panel up as we take it off. We'll probably bring it outside and stick it out in front of his building. All right, I'm gonna peel back if you can grab the hand of the mic out.
You happy with that?
Yeah.
Can you talk about what you just did?
Demolded the hand and the mic, left hand, Elvis's left hand.
And now we have the mold.
Now we have a negative mold. Ready for wax. We're not near finished. I'll end up in Atlanta at the foundry putting in long hours, retouching, changing, working on things, putting detail back in. This is a long, monumental process.
Whoever powers it be that got a Mississippi artist commissioned to actually build and design this, and with Bill Beckwith being right down the road, it's another little point on the constellation of of the hardware store, the shack, and everything else. So I think it's coming to fruition. This will be something tangible, hard for people to look at in Tupelo until Gabriel blows his horn.
The William Faulkner Monument was installed on his 100th birthday, the centennial. That job also became a time problem. I asked for a year to do the job. The piece got caught up in a political battle. That raged on for 4 months. I had 60 days to do all my work, which I worked 12 hours a day, 7 days a week to get it done. Got it done, and we made the deadline on that one also. Acid rain looks like, or something's up. I'm gonna have to come clean that off and re-wax this area. I don't know if you noticed the middle finger, but it was sort of the symbolism of the time, and maybe his attitude towards First National Bank, which I think he had a feud going with. Maybe Oxford in general. We called him Count No Count. I'd love to make some changes on this piece, but that's part of the torture of the profession, I guess. At some point you have to commit to something and go forward. There's no going back. I wish there were. I sort of feel like this is some kind of reality show, TV show, where they have these deadlines, and you really should not have deadlines in this kind of work, because these pieces will be around forever. Well, Mississippi is on the bottom of a lot of lists and referred to as the poorest state in the Union, and I've always disagreed with that and considered us the richest state in so many ways, particularly the arts. I think we've contributed probably more in literature, music, and visual arts than any other state that I know of.
That's what I would like to see the whole state do, is take that turn and recognize where we are and stop playing it safe.
It's hard to say about Mississippi artists, but it's definitely our greatest contribution to the world. It's definitely not our views on politics, economics, or anything else, or religion, for that matter, education. But our art and our culture, our food, our people. Just looking around this shop here, you see great politicians. You see all kind of you see other musicians. You see B.B. King. You see Nobel Peace Prize winning novelists. And so these are all people that are within 60 or 80 miles of where you're standing right now, including Elvis.
I don't know how different Rodin's life and mine have been. We're both studio artists. We both lived, he had rural studios, he had several studios, downtown studios. He had more apprentices than I do. I keep waiting on those to show up. I ran out of clay on this piece, had to mix clay. The first batch didn't work. The second batch came out the wrong color. The third try came out a little soft, a little sticky, but I managed to use it. So they're just problems. If it were that easy, everybody would do it. Making sculpture is not that easy. It's a very demanding, physical, patient-oriented process. I won't put anything up under here. Now's the time. I feel very akin to Rodin, and I feel like we battled the same problems. These are ageless problems that have to do with making sculpture. There's a brotherhood of plaster, a brotherhood of clay, a brotherhood of armatures. There's so much in common. There are failures. If you decide to go this route and you battle the engineering behind these pieces, a lot of the pieces you see, man with a broken nose, things happen. You under-engineer armatures sometimes. Plaster gets old. The physical problems of making sculpture are many. So you have this thing in common. I feel very akin to him. My name is Bill Beckwith. I'm from Greenville, Mississippi. Born in 1952. In 1966, entered the 9th grade in a new junior high school and met a rock and roll band, a garage band called the Shoestring. Jerry and Donnie Brown, whose mother had a cafe uptown. In this cafe, a local sculptor named Leon Curry took all of his meals. He was a bachelor, so he held court in Brown's Delish Shop. Some of his visitors might be Shelby Foote, Ellen Douglas, Harding Carter. Just a lot of people stopped to have coffee with Leon. The first day I walked into Leon's studio and noticed the clay work. There were heads everywhere. Forgot about the rock and roll. I couldn't play anything anyway. I started making molds, mixing plaster, cleaning up, just doing anything I could. My payment was plastiline. Some of that plastiline clay was given to him by Will Percy. He was a friend to Malvina Hoffman in New York, a sculptor who had worked with Rodin in Paris. Will Percy arranged for a young Leon Curry to go to New York and work in Malvina's studio. Leon came back to Greenville, started working for the Greenville Art Association. He kept us out of trouble, tried to steer us in a good way, tried to introduce good literature to us, good music. He was a fan of the classics. He was sort of our guru. The French Romantic period of art, particularly sculptures, is my favorite period. Jean-Baptiste Carpeau being one of my favorite sculptors of all time, he and Rodin. As far as Rodin goes, he had an energy in his work that came with the impressionistic style of modeling. The references to the human condition through gesture are unparalleled to me. The Burghers of Calais, Eve, Rodin's Eve, to me is probably the most perfect pose of any piece ever produced. I love that pose. It works 100% from every angle. His meditation without arms, the drastic contrapposto in that piece, I see it in my sleep. It's something I've tried to steal many times, unsuccessfully. Maybe I've gotten close, but I wish I'd been the first one to do that pose. These tools were left to me by Leon Curry. They belonged to Malvina Hoffman. She gave him these tools and he gave them to me. They're quite magical tools. I value them highly. I try to use them on every piece. I did notice that more so than any piece I've worked on, the slightest change in symmetry, the high points of certain areas, if you got off just a centimeter, it stood out more on this piece than just about anything I've ever worked on. They're fairly worn, and the texture that they impart is very subtle. I used them mainly on the head and the hands because Elvis's skin was very fine, very perfect, as far as I can tell from the photographs. He had a certain youthful, baby-like quality to his cheeks, beautiful skin, and these were the perfect texture to get that effect.
Back in the 90s, I thought that Roger Marshutz had taken all the photographs at the homecoming show. Also, I had no idea as to where my mother really was in the picture, so for the sake of Teenage Tupelo, I imagined her hand to be in the photograph. Now all my assumptions have been corrected. There was more than one photographer there that day, and the actual location of the 17-year-old girl who would one day give me away to the people in the cheap seats would evolve over time.
Are y'all burning up?
Hey.
Are you Mike?
Yeah.
I'm Peggy.
Are you Peggy? Nice to meet you.
Yes, come in. Nice to meet you. I am Peggy Wood. I'm the widow of Terry Wood. He was a photographer, both well-known locally and nationally. On about 8 of his pictures, he wrote what he remembered about that day and about the photographs that he had taken. And Terry wrote, "Each time I look at this photograph, I can almost hear the screams and squeals of the audience. Not necessarily all young, but young and old, men and women, boys and girls."
Terry Wood was the official photographer for the Mississippi-Alabama Fair and Dairy Show every year. Therefore, he was granted areas that your other press would not have been. Also, you don't have to stay in the South very long if you're not from the South to realize that a Southern drawl can get you a long way, as opposed to a Yankee accent.
And his shots reveal the people in the crowd, the bleachers, the populace, the factory workers, the field hands, the people that came out to see that show, all walks of life.
The Honorable J.P. Coleman was governor in 1956. He made a special trip to Tupelo to welcome Elvis and present him with a proclamation. The governor arrived at the fairgrounds bandstand in a black Cadillac. The crowd went crazy when the car drove in, yelling and screaming. They just knew it was Elvis. But then the governor stepped out, and the crowd immediately fell quiet in unison. Thought that was cute.
I spoke with Roger Marshutz at the time we did our homecoming film because I wanted to use some of his photographs. And he was a cub reporter for Photoplay magazine, and this was the dirt job.
Roger Marshutz's photographs are looking up, sort of like God created man. You know, more like classical and more formal in their approach, more elitist in their approach. Elvis comes off like Captain Marvel Jr.
The Mayor James Ballard presented Elvis with a guitar that said, "Welcome home, Tupelo, Mississippi." I was able to somehow get Mayor Ballard, Vernon, his dad, and his mother Gladys in this photograph with Elvis. His mother was rarely at these concerts and was not photographed very often.
Last September 2011, I went down with Sean to scout locations for Tupelo. I already knew the locations, but I just wanted to kind of go and get the script in my head. And I was like, well, I'm going to pay a visit to my mom. And I went by the caramel corn shop where she works, and she wasn't there. So I went by the house and knocked on the door, and I'd heard she was sick. And this beautiful woman comes to the door who's supposed to be 72 years old, which is the age my adopted mother passed away. I thought I was looking at a 52-year-old woman, and I had that Elvis picture under my arm that's framed and hangs in my kitchen. I said, listen, I can't get my brothers to find this out for me, but they've told me all about this picture. I just want to know where you are in it. And she points to this girl with a shadow across her face. And I can't say that I ever particularly noticed that particular girl with a shadow across her face, because there's a lot of people in the photograph. When I saw that girl with a shadow across her face, I was like, my God, that's my daughter, Hannah. And then Barbara said, if you don't leave now, I'm going to call the police. So I left. When Teenage Tupelo premiered in 1995, we showed it in Mississippi. We couldn't really show it in Tupelo. It might have been considered a little too underground for that. It still was, in fact, until a couple years back. But we showed it at the Hoka in Oxford. Who knows? I mean, I might have run into Bill Beckwith that night, or Sean Johnson. The person I did run into was my brother Chico. I met him for the first time during the premiere of Teenage Tupelo, August '95. This is the girl who plays you in Teenage Tupelo. And there's Kim. She's playing this. Kim and these two girls, Kristen and Chris, are the girl gang that befriend Delana, who plays you.
What's her name?
Delana.
In real life?
Yeah, she plays herself. And
Well, that looked like Lisa. Henry, you don't quit.
In May 2012, we showed Tupelo at the Tupelo Film Festival. And I met my biological mother for the first time properly. My whole family met her during the course of the events of that weekend.
My God, another picture.
Yep.
That's enough.
Okay, well.
That's enough.
All right.
Oh, did you do it?
She's not the director.
I am the director.
I became interested, deeply interested in Elvis as a singer and a symbol on my own. Meanwhile, my mother saw Elvis 6 times. So something about us made Elvis important to the both of us. Well, if that's you, that to me looks like you. But
Well, see, my hair was like in a ponytail. I didn't have that hair.
oh, okay.
But I had these little things like girls wore, them little, they called them kiss curls. They come down like that.
Mm-hmm.
But see, that looks like me too. See the eyes?
My biological mother, Barbara, she won't do a proper interview, which is her business. But without that interview and without her conclusive pointing to something, it's kind of tricky to know.
It's right in here somewhere.
Taking a little bit too far.
So it was a relief when Barbara found herself in a photograph by Jimmy Velvet that had been used on the cover of a record that she owned. What, Ronnie?
There she is right there.
Yeah, I found myself in there today.
She's right there. Who?
I can drive your car.
After we met Barbara in May, she became uncertain as to where she was in any of the photographs that had Elvis in them from the homecoming show. I had to call into question years of my own beliefs and self-made myths about the photographs and the importance of my mother being in the picture with Elvis. And then I realized that the closer that I came to my biological mother, the less it mattered where she was in a photograph from 56 years before. So from Teenage Tupelo to Tupelo, and now the statue, family, my biological family has come together. And I don't think it would have happened without Elvis Presley.
The place is prepared, and I know that there's just going to be a huge collective sigh of relief from me, from Neil, from everybody at CVB, everybody who's been involved with this, especially Bill Beckwith, to see this thing up there. And then we will have it covered, curtains around it so nobody can see it. And, you know, people are gonna want to peep, you know, but I think that it's gonna be best for us to have it. You know, if we're gonna unveil it, we gotta have the veil up, right?
We got this in today. Elvis, good afternoon. This is nice and clean. Hey, you're the sculptor? Listen, who are you? Bill Beckwith. Well, I've seen one sneak peek. It looks really good.
Yeah.
Roll north.
board, our speakers, Tupelo Fan Club members who join me. Welcome to Tupelo's front porch, and where on this very ground in 1956 and 1957, Elvis Presley came home for his 2 homecoming concerts. For the Elvis fans, we are standing on hallowed ground. And as I mentioned before, to create our statue, we didn't have to go around the world. We just went to Taylor, Mississippi, about 45 miles from here. Please help me thank world-renowned sculptor Bill Beckwith. Bill, proud of you. You know, a good place to live is a good place to visit, and a good place to live is a good place to locate. Mississippi's own statewide economic motto now is Mississippi, the birthplace of America's music. Now, Meridian, about 2.5 hours south of here, has the father of country music, Jimmie Rodgers. Indianola, about 2 hours southwest of here, has B.B. King, the king of the blues. But we in Tupelo have the world's most beloved entertainer, the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley.
Elvis is big in Tupelo. Elvis is big around the world. We have something to cherish. We have something to be so absolutely proud of. Elvis is everything. I was at the Ogden Museum in New Orleans. Y'all didn't know a boy in Plantersville's travel that much. For those of you Baptists here, we Methodists, you know what the Baptists call sin, we Methodists call fellowship. And it was called the Trinity. It was called the Trinity, Henry Dodge, and it had a picture of Jesus, Elvis, and Robert E. Lee on it. I believe in all 3. Have a good time tonight.
here and lives.
What I would like to see, and what I'm hoping that the statue will bring into play, and maybe people understanding the depth of the statue and seeing things like, just seeing Tupelo in a different way. That maybe instead of an incubator for small business, they have an incubator for music. You know, they have an incubator for writers and publishing, the things that make Mississippi great.
Philosophy of Elvis, he's Mississippi's greatest son. You know, he's changed the world more than any other citizen of Mississippi ever has, or probably ever will.
Elvis Presley wasn't just the beginning of rock and roll music. He was superhuman. He wasn't afraid to let everyone know when he was searching for religion or just exploring the excess of being human. People learned through Elvis, lived through Elvis. He was just this amazingly gifted superhuman that shared all of himself with everyone.
I just think there's so many ideas to explore, ideas that Elvis, frankly, might have loved. Because Elvis, when he was a boy, he read comic books. When he was a teenager, he helped create rock and roll. And when he was an adult, he appeared in 33 films. And comic books, rock and roll, and film, specifically drive-in culture, are the three principles of American pop culture. And Elvis participated in all three of those. And in my mind, it makes Elvis not just the king of rock and roll, it makes him the king of American pop culture.
It was very easy for me to conceive of the idea of the statue because it had been on my mind since I had learned that my mother was somewhere in the photograph with Elvis. My mother, Barbara, is the reason the statue exists.
I said he didn't have that much hair in the beginning. He's kind of a, you know, pompadour. You like him?
Yeah.
Me too. So you missed school for this, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll catch up.
I actually
do your homework.
I've actually
good?
seen the guy that made this.
I know.
There's a
We saw him
signature.
last night, didn't we?
There's a signature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. He's a good sculptor.
Steel doors and razor wire can make you meek, queer and sad. I shared a cold hard rail rack with my faithful friend feeling bad. There's everlasting, constant rapping, gang banging, guards and dope. I've seen a killer fall, slither and crawl. They'll take away all your hope. I'll never fit in. I'll never fit in. I'll never fit in. Those walls ain't too thin. I'm never going back again. I'll never fit in. Freedom can't be your lover, but being cake brought me to tears. I was isolated, incarcerated, locked up and down for years. I just wanted to be left alone, to be a martyr and a recluse. My life was messed up for a long time. I don't make no excuse. I'll never fit in. I'll never fit in. I'll never fit in. Those walls ain't too thin. I'm never going back again. I'll never fit in. Never fit in because doing time is like the eye of a swirling storm. As empty and hollow as a tequila bottle, alone on a Sunday morn. Another sunrise comes and goes, but the future is a clay. Hell, I couldn't see past 24 hours. My time was doing day for day. I'll never fit in. I'll never fit in. I'll never fit in. Those walls ain't too thin. I'm never going back again. I'll never fit in. I'll never fit in. Those walls ain't too thin. I'm never going back.